Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to a special episode today where I will cover the basics of the logistics pipe mod and go over how you can use it to improve your playthrough of a pack such as FPB interactions. For the purpose of this video, I will not be covering any crafting recipes for any of these components because they differ pack to pack and you can look those up in JEI just fine. I also will not be covering some features that I simply don't know how to use very well. Like I know the high-speed system exists. I'm not comfortable enough with using it to talk about it, so I just won't. Anyways, with those disclaimers out of the way, the logistics pipe system is fundamentally composed of, I'd say, four main parts. You have, you have providers, like provider modules here, and provider pipes, like these. Then you have suppliers, which come in two forms as well, supplier modules, and actually I think both types of suppliers are modules. There is no supplier pipe. Nextly, we have item sinks, which, let's see, are here. Item sinks come in module form. They might also come in pipe form. I don't think they do. And lastly, the crafting system, which comes in the form of, well, crafting pipes and modules. So let's go over those one by one. Providers, both modules and pipes, provide items to the network. That is, they give items from their attached inventory to the network that they're attached to. So for example, the provider pipe I have, or the provider module I have in this chassis, takes all the items in this storage system, or in this modular storage, and provides it to anything that wants it on the network. That is, anything like our request table can pull from providers, and suppliers can pull from providers. Moving on from that then, suppliers are the other side, right? Suppliers take items from providers and have them leave the network. So this supplier module here is asking to take these items from our logistics pipe network and place them into the attached inventory. All right, next we have item sinks. Item sinks are a way to define where or how to route items to inventories. So item sinks say, well, there's many types of item sinks. They're a little bit more complicated than I think you typically need to use, but basically item sinks are a way to define like when an item enters the logistics pipe network, where does it go if there is no supplier that is asking for it. So for example, you can have a regular item sink, which is what I'm doing here, where you get to specify I want exactly these items. We're going to ignore this default route button for now. Some of the other item sinks are the polymorphic item sink. This is any item that is already in the attached inventory, I will ask for more of those. So if you have like a drawer system with a drawer controller, the polymorphic item sink is a great item sink for that because it says, if I have at least one item, then give me more of these. You can also configure these item sinks to not take the last item out so that, it can act as a filter effectively. Mod-based item sink, I imagine you can guess what that does. It's based on the mod name. Or dictionary item sinks are based on or dictionary tags, right? Those are, you see there, or dictionary names, cable, GT, single, signalum. And creative tab based are your creative tabs here based on these. So, with those out of the way, the last feature I want to talk about in item sinks is the default route button. Default route means if the item has nowhere else to go, that is, it does not match any requested item in a normal item sink or any of these other item sinks, send it here. Basically, it's your lowest priority storage. It's actually your second lowest priority storage. There is the Terminus pipe or Terminus module, which is the absolute lowest priority storage. But default route, I guess, is like one tier above that. If you want something that the Terminus module says if the item has tried all the item sinks and it can't go into there, it's tried the default route, it can't go into there, then send it to the Terminus module. This can be used for something like a trash can. If our storage network is 100% full, I guess we throw stuff away. I usually don't use it, but if you want, you can. Let's see, where was I? So that's covered item sinks, providers, and suppliers. Next up, I guess, is crafting. So crafting comes in largely two forms. There's the 3x3 crafting table and the processing recipes, right? Stuff you do in machines. As far as logistics pipes go, they're actually very similar because the logistics crafting table is, for all practical intents and purposes, a machine. So what happens is you can store a recipe in your logistics crafting table. This serves as your, it is an auto crafter. It can function without being attached to a logistics pipe network, I believe. But it still needs logistics power, so I suppose it's very difficult to use without being on a logistics pipe network. But if it gets these items sent to here, it will craft this output, regardless of whether or not the pipe system is asking for it. Now, the crafting logistics pipe is what actually interacts with the rest of your logistics pipes. So think of this as just an external machine, whereas the crafting logistics pipe is one of your, it's a pipe, right? It can interact with all your other pipes. So when I go to craft this item, what the crafting logistics pipe will do is it will go and look in the rest of my logistics system. That is, it will look in every single provider as well as any other crafting pipes and say, hey, can you, do you have these items? And if the answer is yes, it will request them from the providers. So each provider will then give up the items from their attached inventory and send them to this location. If necessary, like say the bronze gear we don't have in storage, but we can craft, it will then it'll ask the pipe that has a bronze gear recipe to go and to go craft me a bronze gear. So it'll recursively craft. Then once all the items have been pulled into this inventory, this crafting table will turn them into the output item, at which point the crafting logistics pipe says, that's the item I wanted. And it will automatically withdraw the product from the logistics crafting table into the pipe, and, the item gets sent on its way. The other type of recipe is a processing recipe, something that involves a machine. This isn't really all that different, right, from this, because again, these logistics crafting tables are machines, practically speaking, but there are some challenges once you involve machines like this. First of all, you can't just use the import button because you can't import recipes like that. So say we want to store or input a recipe for stone. We cannot import directly from JEI, so we have to define the imports like this. And in fact, I'm going to put the cobblestone import in the satellite section. That'll become clear later. Anyways, what happens then, if I were to order a piece of stone, it would look at this pipe and say, hey, if I send one piece of cobblestone to this crafting logistics pipe, I'll eventually get a piece of stone out. That is an accurate statement. So let me first empty all the stone from my network. Right now there are 0 pieces of stone. If I were to request one more, it'll pull a piece of cobblestone and send it here where it begins cooking. However, something will happen when it's done. And what that is that the final product will just sit in this output slot. Why? Well, the final product from furnaces can only be extracted at the bottom. So what logistics pipe expects is that the crafting logistics pipe that you use to hold the recipe is where the final product must enter the logistics pipe system from, and the pipe must pull the craft from it. That is, I cannot use a hopper or import a extractor module like I do here, right, which pulls items from inventories. I cannot use an extractor module to extract the stone, otherwise it will never mark the crafting recipe as complete. So can I actually see that crafting recipe from here? No, I can't because I requested it through this, huh? All right, anyways, the solution then is, instead of when you want to craft with something like a furnace, you need to put your crafting pipe on the output side, that is the bottom. However, that introduces another challenge now. You can't input stone into the bottom of a furnace, right? A furnace is a sided machine. Only only inputs can, or it only takes inputs from the top. So to solve this problem, you have to use a satellite. Satellite logistics pipe. There's also, no, you don't use a module. A satellite logistics pipe has an ID, or I guess a name. Furnace top. And when you add a recipe into your crafting logistics pipe, you can tell it to send some of the inputs, or optionally all of the inputs, to a satellite. So I can say, instead of sending the input to this crafting pipe, send it to the satellite. Wonderful. So what happens now when I order stone, and in fact, I'm going to order it from here because then I can see the crafting process. Right, request 1 piece of stone, and we can see it's now being crafted. And if we look in our furnace, our cobblestone is being smelted. And when it's done, the crafting pipe withdraws it, and it will mark our craft as complete. There's no longer a pending craft, and we have a piece of stone here. Alright, this works great for machines that take a single input and produce a single output. Well, produce any, or that produce a guaranteed output. It gets a little trickier once you have stuff like alloy smelters and, let you have multiple inputs, or stuff with chance outputs. I won't really get into that for now, but there is an upgrade to the crafting logistics pipe called the crafting manager. The crafting manager, the crafting manager here is a pipe that holds multiple crafting recipes. In fact, it can hold up to 32, I guess. Say I wanted to store recipes for an alloy smelter. It's a reasonable thing to do. Alloy smelters are slow machines, and you typically want to store more than 1 recipe per machine. So to do so, we would use our crafting manager. In the crafting manager, you'll have to put your crafting module, which is what actually holds the recipe. If you right-click one, you can store the recipe. What I have in this one is bronze. So it's 1 tin, 3 copper, makes 4 bronze. Then you'll want to specify a satellite pipe. This is where the input should go. So I have it paired up with this satellite. You'll want to specify a result pipe. That's where the output will come from. That's this result pipe. And then you put your crafting module in here. Next, you'll also want to apply a crafting buffer upgrade. This isn't strictly necessary, but it is generally speaking a good idea. You want to put a crafting buffer upgrade on your crafting manager and put a chest next to it. This allows this chest to serve as the crafting buffer for tasks going to this alloy smelter. For example, if I order more than, 22 pieces of bronze, it'll take more than 1 stack of copper. Normally what will happen then is that the copper it'll send 66 pieces of copper, of which up to 64 will be accepted into the machine, and the other 2 will bounce back to somewhere else in the network. The crafting system will remember that it owes this machine 2 pieces of copper, and it'll eventually get around to bringing those 2 pieces back to here. But if the storage for the copper is really far away, it might take some time before the items come back. Now, there is another problem potentially here that I'm intentionally not addressing, and we'll see if it crops up. And that is, this machine will happily take copper in both input slots, right? If I order too much, it'll happily just jam copper into both slots and call it a day. To fix that problem, you have to go beyond logistics pipes. You need to use some external system like, item conduits that with a limited item filter that will avoid putting copper into both slots. But I'm not going to deal with that for now. So let's order some bronze. I have none because I've already cleared my network. Let's try going over the limit. Let's order 28 pieces. So the request is successful. We should relatively quickly see items flow over from here. This is a little ways from our storage, but here they come. I love watching items flow through these pipes. And they get briefly put in here because this is a buffer, and then they get sent to our alloy smelter. Oh, right, I forgot that this produces 4 bronze, not 1 each. Well, so I guess that won't make the problem where one slot gets overfilled unless I order a lot more bronze. But that's fine. We will soon, you can see as of products finished, they get automatically extracted from the result pipe. Again, it's very important that the products get extracted from the pipe that you tell it will be extracted from. So because it says, this crafting manager says that final product should go into a result pipe with this ID, namely this result pipe, that is what marks the crafting task as finished. If I were to instead just dump the outputs into a chest and then extractor module them or extractor pipe them from the chest, the logistics pipe system will not recognize those as the finished products. But because they are being withdrawn from the result pipe as expected, we should soon see that they are being dumped into the ender pouch that I have linked to my remote order. And the items are a little ways off, but they're working their way into here. So that's how you use the crafting manager. And the crafting manager can hold up to 32 recipes. This system still leaves some problems, and I will not be solving these today because I don't actually have a satisfactory solution. In addition to the problem of trying to jam, the same material into both input slots, which can be fixed relatively easily with a buffer chest and a item, like a limited item filter of sorts. Things get more complicated once you consider recipe overlaps. So say you have a recipe for bronze ingot and a recipe for invar ingot, right? Bronze is copper and tin, invar is iron and nickel. But what do you do if you order both of these at the same time? How do you avoid accidentally making tin alloy, which is tin and iron, right? The input from one and the input from another. There's a lot of challenges with automating, especially stuff with multiple inputs like the alloy smelter, which in large part is why I haven't bothered doing it in this playthrough. I'm just going to wait until Applied Energistics, which has blocking mode, which very cleanly solves that problem. It will only input items from a single crafting recipe at a time, and it will, it will not do overlaps. So until it'll input the three copper and the 1 tin ingot simultaneously, which guarantees that they take up 2 different slots. And because it's on blocking mode, it won't keep inserting stuff until the previous craft has completed. So yeah, enough about auto crafting. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about the fluid capabilities of the logistics pipe system. So fluids are handled very much the same way as items are. In fact, fluids even transit the network as items internally. So you have providers, which, fluid providers are basically item providers, except in fluid form. And you have fluid suppliers, which, let's see if I can find some. I probably have a fluid supplier. Oh, that's an active supplier. Here's a fluid supplier, right? This fluid supplier, you specify what fluid and how much of it. And it is, in practice, the same as the item form. It takes fluids from a fluid supplier or from a fluid provider that has the same fluid in it and sends it over here. Logistics pipes can also use fluids in crafting recipes. So by applying a fluid crafting upgrade to a crafting logistics pipe, or a wait, that's a crafting module. Where's my fluid crafting upgrade? You can apply, it says crafting pipes and crafting modules. I have no clue how to actually apply it to a crafting module. But when you apply it to a crafting pipe, you get this UI here, which say you wanted, I don't know, you wanted to add water to your crafting recipe. For the fluids, well, I think for all of these, you can actually, yeah, you can drag ghost items out of JEI if you're not in cheat mode. Anyways, for this recipe, say you want to insert some amount of water. Do I not get to pick how much? I guess not. Alright, so you have to specify where to send the fluids, I guess, first. So fluids have to be sent to a logistics fluid satellite. And once you specify that, you can, specify the exact amount of fluid. So if I say, give me one bucket of water, right? 1,000 millibuckets of water and a bucket. Oopsies. overlapping hotkeys. A empty bucket. Where's an empty bucket? Well, the output will be a filled bucket, and I guess I'll just grab an empty bucket from my inventory. Right, send the item to this satellite, send the fluid to this satellite, and the output will come out of this tank because the tank can fill buckets. So if I do that and then I go order a water bucket, we should see that a bucket flows into here. A bucket of water will come in item form through the side here. At least I'm pretty sure I have a water supplier on the network. Or water provider, which I do. And then you see that now the water bucket gets sucked out, and we should see, aha, a water bucket. So you can do this to provide exact amounts of fluids to recipes, which is convenient for things like assembler recipes. However, once again, you run into the problem of if you use multiple fluids in an assembler, you have to be careful about the fluids bouncing. So in that event, I actually don't know what happens if a fluid bounces because there's another fluid in the tank already. I typically, when I do auto crafting like this, I keep it one machine has one fluid. So it's you can choose whether or not to always supply the fluid to the machine always. So like instead of a satellite, you just use a fluid provider, or rather a fluid supplier, sorry, to keep the machine full of the fluid. Or you can supply it on demand as with the fluid upgrade in your crafting card. Another very neat feature of logistics pipes is the remote order. I've been using it throughout this video, but what it does is it lets you order items remotely. Two ways to use it. First, you can right click it on any pipe, and if you order an item, it will send the items to that pipe and it will pop out at that point. If the pipe happens to be connected to an inventory, it will actually send items to the connected inventory. So we see the item will go into this inventory. Now, since this inventory has an extractor on it, it will immediately pull the item out of it as well. This is useful for if you want to craft items, but you don't want them, you just want them to craft into storage. So if I set you to craft and say, I don't know, I want a basic logistics pipe, but I don't want it in my inventory, I want it in storage. It will go send the items off to there, craft it, send them to here, where they will immediately be sucked back into storage. Another thing you can do with this is if you link your remote order to a remote order logistics pipe by right-clicking on it, and then you right-click your remote order without looking at anything, then you can order items, and any items you order get sent to the linked inventory here. So I have an ender chest linked, but you can also do something like a player interface. What player interfaces are available. So yeah, something like this, right, which is automatically linked to your inventory, and you can have it directly send items into, you know, however many slots in your inventory that you mark as insertable, which is a cool way to automatically give yourself items. This works interdimensionally, this works across any distance as long as your logistics pipe system is trunk loaded. Basically, your logistics power junction, any of your item providers, and your remote order logistics pipe have to be chunk loaded, and the route between them has to be chunk loaded. Lastly, I want to talk about some of the relevant item or the relevant upgrades that you might use relatively commonly. So the item stack extraction upgrade, if you saw when we did our crafting here, it only extracted a single item at a time from our alloy smelter. If you have a very fast crafting system, like say this was a, I don't know, an insane voltage alloy smelter instead of a basic one, it'll craft very quickly. The item stack extraction upgrade will have it pull one stack of items at a time instead of a single item at a time. It can also be placed on provider pipes, so it cannot be placed into provider modules, unfortunately, but it can be placed into provider pipes. So like say I regularly would be requesting stacks of extraterrestrial matter, I can apply a item stack extraction upgrade here. Normally the provider pipe sucks, I think it's 16 items? Provider logistics pipe. Yeah, it sucks 16 items out of its attached inventory at a time. With this, it'll do a whole stack. The item extraction upgrade, is similar. It makes, but it goes into a slightly different set of pipes, and it also just makes it suck up more items per operation. The action speed upgrade makes it do those operations more often. Crafting cleanup upgrade is used in crafting pipes where your crafting operation leaves a leftover byproduct. So say you're crafting something that involves like water buckets, right? And then most of these recipes that involve water buckets leave a filled or an empty bucket behind. Well, you can use your crafting cleanup upgrade to pull the empty bucket out. That can also apply to processing recipes like these where the leftover item is not in a crafting table, but it's in some other inventory. The crafting monitor upgrade is something that can only go into your logistics request table. Unfortunately, you can't apply it to your remote order, but when you put it in your logistics request table and you make a request of anything, you can even just like an item request, it lists the pending requests up there in like a little what's going on tab. The fuzzy upgrade, when applied on a crafting pipe or a crafting module, will allow you to specify that the rest, or to allow it to be like MBT insensitive. So in fact, let me give myself one of these and apply it here. You can usually right click upgrades onto pipes. And now this thing you can say, you know, or prefix. Anything with this, I don't even know if a bucket has a or dictionary tag. It doesn't. But, you know, you can specify any of these except buckets with any MBT tag to send here instead of just buckets with no MBT tag. It's not terribly relevant in this case, but I'm sure you can imagine cases where you don't care about the exact MBT on the input. I think it applies to the output as well. When applied to basic pipes or itemsink modules, you can tell it to itemsink, you know, say I wanted to send all types of, I don't know, what's something that has a lot of MBT tags? Pickaxes. Right, whoops. Say I want to send all iron pickaxes here regardless of whether or not they are enchanted or how much durability they have. You can use a fuzzy upgrade to accomplish that. You put this here, you apply this to... Sometimes if you're applying to a module, upgrades are a little bit trickier. You need... I almost forget how this works. To apply upgrades to modules, you first need a upgrade module that you apply to the pipe. So you put the upgrade module in the pipe, then you can apply upgrades to modules. Oh, I put the wrong upgrade in the pipe. Hold on. Try that again. Put the upgrade module in the pipe. Then you have upgrade slots here for your fuzzy upgrade. And then you can say ignore MBT data and metadata. However, for this pipe, you know, I don't actually want to use this, so I'm not going to. Next up, we have, actually, let me pull this out before I forget to. There we go. All right. Next up, we have the crafting byproduct extraction upgrade. This is similar to the crafting cleanup upgrade, except this is typically used to remove chance byproducts. So you know how like your macerator produces chance byproducts, like you have chance to get melon seeds out of melons. You can use this to say, hey, if I happen to get the melon seeds, take them out for me, please. The advanced satellite upgrade is used in these crafting pipes and modules. Without the advanced satellite upgrade, you can only send up to 3 unique items to the satellite. With the advanced satellite upgrade, you can send all of them to satellites. You can even send them to different satellites. The disconnection upgrade is to, it's basically like a pipe plug. If I didn't want, I don't know, if I didn't want these 2 pipes to connect, right, I could put a disconnection upgrade on one of them and disconnect them. And the passive supplier module is very much like an itemsink module. It's more like an itemsink than it is a supplier. But what it does is when items enter the logistics pipe network, usually through an extractor module, and they match the items on the passive supplier, they will be sent there. Again, that's very similar to what a itemsink module does when it's not on default route mode. All right, that is my basic overview of of some of the features of logistics pipes. I hope this was helpful to you. If I did make any statements that you believe are incorrect, let me know in the comments, and I will, I don't know, if you're right, I guess I will issue a correction of some form. And this video is already twice as long as I wanted it to be initially, so let's wrap things up here. If you have any questions, also feel free to ask either in the comments or in my Discord server. Link is in the description. And have a nice day. Take care. Bye-bye.